Hello, welcome to Victor George Leather Goods YouTube. It's been a little while. I'm glad to be back doing something completely different today. And I have had the pleasure to collaborate with the crew at edcleather.com. You know George Canfield, his son Jacob, and Garrett. Fantastic leather working team there that provides a lot of stuff for us leather workers. So their holster pattern packs are amazing. I think I've bragged about them for a while now, but I've collaborated with them for their pattern packs, and I have designed 3 styles of the Kabar iconic classic knife, USMC Marine Fighting Utility Knife, and we have put together a pattern pack of these 3 Kabar sheaths. So today what I'm going to do is I'm just going to show you when you order the pattern packs, you'll get these, all 3 of them in one pattern pack, and I'm going to show you how to cut them out of the pattern pack onto leather. There's a unique feature here that's really kind of cool, and that's a shelf with a magnet. And all of these sheaths, as I will explain to you during the fabrication show and tell, have options. Safety straps, magnets, a shelf, you name it. We'll put it together here for you, and let's go ahead and get started. I suggest you go ahead and order a pattern pack of these Kabar pattern sheaths. Build one yourself. So we'll talk to you in the next clip. Let's take a moment before we actually start the fabrication to show you the sheaths. So these are the digital downloads done by Jacob over there at EDC based on my original patterns. I went ahead and built these from the patterns to this level here just to make sure that fit and function are spot on. The final phase appearance is going to be up to you. So this one here is your basic semi-high ride. Has the traditional hourglass shape to it with the safety strap, which is just part of the Americana of this style of sheath. So that is numero uno. Now in this particular one here, I went ahead and incorporated the shelf, which is part of the pattern pack, and that has a magnet in there. It's a 3/4 inch by 1/8 inch rare earth that's holding that in there. So that is the first The second sheath in this pattern pack was sort of inspired by George Canfield, the other George, the OG, from his youth in his Marine Corps days. This thing is just a cool feature. All of this stuff is optional. You can put the strap right in the middle. I'll show you all of that in a minute. But yeah, throw that in your pack. It's good to go. It's solid. It's not going anywhere. The final sheath is the Dangler as part of this 3-pack. And this is a little bit more functional. Snaps when they're new or a little bit tight. But anyway, this is obviously a Dangler version of the Kabar. Anyway, you're going to get all 3 of these things. I'm going to show you the steps. I'm going to show you how to incorporate the shelf with a magnet. Nice thing about this particular build is all 3 of the faces are identical. The only thing difference are the backings. So let's cut out the patterns. Let's put this to leather and show you how easy it is. The very first thing that you're going to get once you purchase these patterns from edcleather.com, you're going to get 4 individual sheets. And these will encompass the 3 knife sheaths of this pattern pack. First thing that you want to do is each one of these pages has a 5-inch reference line. You want to take a ruler of some sort and just confirm that that is 5 inches. Do that on every page. Make sure that they are ready to go. That is going to be your first step. So the pattern pack has the high ride version, the one that we're going to build today. We have the final page here that incorporates the welt, the front face, the shelf that I'll show you with the magnet, and a cover for that magnet. Down the road, I'm going to show you several variations of how to do that. So once you get that, then you are good to go. They are on cardstock, and I'm going to go ahead and just start with the high ride version as part of this video. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out these two parts. So any straightaways that you have, I always take a ruler and I'll put it right center of the ink line, and I will cut that out. Any other straightaways, it's always easier to use a ruler and right along the edge, cut them out. The inside curves, just make sure your knife splits that ink line. Split that ink line, keep that knife at 90 degrees. Use whatever knife works for you, pair of scissors, those snap-off blades, whatever works for you. This Stanley utility knife is something that I've just become used to through all the years. One more. Okay, that is that piece. And now I will cut this out off camera, not to waste any more time, but the concept is all the same. Just split the line, keep the tool at 90 degrees. We have both pieces cut out, and now it's just a matter of connecting part A to part B. There is a slight overlap area that's intentionally designed in the pattern. So what we're going to do is we're going to place this piece here over that line, connect the lines, and then it's nothing more than taking some tape and connecting that. I always like to do my back seam as well, gives a little bit more strength. Okay, now you have the complete pattern. The nice thing about this is there's a center line here that you need to just confirm that all of these connections are together and make sure that that line is spot on. And it is, that will ensure that your pattern is symmetrical. So now what you can do is take your piece here that has the welt, the front panel, the optional shelf with a magnet, and the cover piece, and cut those out. I won't waste your time. I'm sure we all have cut out many of the patterns. And now we have the welt, the front panel, the magnet shelf, and the cover piece of garment leather, 1 ounce. All right, once that's cut out, you'll notice here I usually clip my corners. It's not necessary, it's just something that I do. Gives it a little bit more room for insertion at the throat, and that is the next step. Now we are going to, I've already cut out the 2 patterns for the Dangler and for the classic, the George Canfield version. And I've checked all my lines and make sure everything's symmetrical. And now the nice thing about this particular build is all 3 of the back straps are different for the individual sheaths. However, the front panel, the welt, the magnet piece are compatible for all 3. So you only need to cut these out once. So I'm going to demonstrate at the end some tricks and tips for the Dangler version and for this classic version, but we're actually going to build this this high ride version on camera for you. Everything else is pretty much the same, so I'll take you through every stage of this build, and hopefully it'll give you some help if you need it, and otherwise you can just watch for how I do it. So I'm going to take this this high ride version, and I'm going to make it into a right hand strong knife sheath. Now my brain fights me a lot on this. Get yourself some really nice, firm, clean 8-ounce veg tan leather, whether it be Herman Oak or Traditions leather. Those are the two that I usually use. Find you a nice 8-ounce piece of veg tan, and that's the foundation for this build. So now back to the right hand strong sheath. If you'll notice on these patterns it says flesh side. So if you are one of those, and it's hard to tell, but that's the flesh side. If you're one of those that can trace and cut on the flesh side, then you would put the pattern up like that, trace it out, cut it out. I cannot do that. I have never been able to do that. I've always cut from the grain side. Can explain that. So what I need to do with this pattern, and you'll notice I haven't cut out the slots yet, because whether I use them or not, again, another option I have available to me once I do the magnet shelf. But anyway, you take the pattern and you flip it onto the grain side, if you are like me and cut from the grain side. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take, this is a brass doorstop, makes it really nice to help hold the pattern down. So I use a Sharpie fine point pen. What I like about this is when you moisten the leather for other fabrication steps, the lines don't fade, they don't dissolve, and I can see them. If I use a scratch-all, for some reason I can't see it very well. So now take this pen and you trace out the pattern. Keep the pen as close to the edge, or right on the edge I should say, and trace the pattern onto leather. Make sure everything doesn't shift, and trace away. Again, this is for a right hand strong sheath. Before you put this pattern to leather, really think about that. I mean, I have to fight myself all the time. I've made so many left-handed sheaths, and I just shifted a little bit, but that's all right. We can save that. And that's pretty much it. All right, so that is now ready for me to cut. If you'll notice on my front panel, on my front face of the sheath, I placed it pattern side up, and they wrote on here hair side or grain side. And then for a right hand strong sheath, you would just place that in that configuration. Okay, so now we have our leather ready to cut. I will tell you that you know, you've got all of this room here eventually for your safety strap or straps and your belt keeper for the dangler. Those are parts that eventually you'll have to cut if you choose to build that particular sheath. Okay, once you get your pieces cut out, and I just noticed I forgot my top piece, I take, and I do this to all the parts, then I just take, this is 320 sandpaper, and I just clean up any areas that might have been messed up by a dull blade or my tired hands. But everything here looks good. It's 90 degrees and ready to go. So I have my 3 pieces cut out here. And now what I'm going to do is I'm going to cut out the back strap. And I always like to get the scary parts out of the way, and that would be the inside curves. So I'm just going to take a light touch, split that incline. Okay, do this one, and then I'll cut the rest off camera. Finally got the pieces cut out. One thing that I usually do is I will take the pattern and just make sure that the knife or the leather part of it is accurate. So that's good. Take that, make sure it's all good. Double check everything. And we are all systems go. Okay, now with this back piece, it's the same thing. I'll take a little bit of sandpaper or a salon board, and I'll just make sure that all the cuts are 90 degrees and clean. Now, these inside curves and this straightaway at the fold over need to be edged. And as I said here, I cut splitting the incline. The edger will take away whatever is left. So a couple of things I need to do on this back strap. Number one, I need to do my edging. I need to burnish these inside curves, and because I won't be able to get to them later. And then I'll need to skive this piece that folds over onto itself, flesh side to flesh side. So let's go ahead and do that real quick. I'm not going to worry about this here because that's going to be skived. And we're just going to go ahead. And I don't use too aggressive of a edger here. All my edgers are old, so it doesn't really have a number that translates to the modern ones of today. Okay, now when I do the inside or the flesh side, I'll just put a little bit of moisture on there. It helps. For some reason, that flesh side, as we all know, is a little bit difficult to cut when it's completely dry. I'm showing you more than you need to see, but anyway. Now the next step I'll prep for it is I will go ahead and edge, burnish all these edges here. So I took a little bit of moisture, put it on the edge here, and I have a Dremel tool with a felt wheel that you can get at the Dremel aisle at the hardware stores. It develops a groove in there. I just load it with a little bit of wax. I am old school. I use wax as my edge burnisher. Of course, use your Tokenol or whatever products that you particularly like. So there's 3 phases to a knife sheath: fit, function, and appearance, in that order. This is part of the appearance phase. So just go ahead and burnish it real quick. Okay, I'm going to do the other side, and then I will do a little bit of edge grooving, and I'll show you that. But now what I need to do is I need to take this inside flesh piece, and you'll notice on the pattern itself it has a general location for skiving to feather. I just take my skive and I will skive. I'm going to take my time here and get all these ridges cleaned up, but you can use anything. You can use a French edger, whatever you're comfortable with. The key to this is getting that edge to feather. You don't want to bump when these two pieces join up in later phases. Okay. Before I mess that up on camera, I'm just going to continue. Get that nice to feather. And again, you could even take this to your 2x72. You can take a sanding block and again, get this thing to feather. That's the goal. All right, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my wing dividers. And anytime there's a plain sheath in my world, I always like to take the wing dividers, and while the edge is a little bit moist still, I give myself about a, I don't know what that is, about 1/16 of an inch from the edge, and I just take my wing dividers and I give myself kind of a border. Now remember, all of this is blank canvas. You can fully carve that, you can geometric stamp it, dragon scales. The creative part is on you. So I'm gonna work a little bit more on these edges, and then I'm gonna show you how they come out when they're finalized. So I've got my skife working, I've got my burnishing working, and I'll be back. So I finished burnishing the edges, my decorative crease line, and all I do is I use my wing dividers for about a 1/16 inch line, and then because I'm shade tree, I use my plastic bone folder, and then I go in over the crease lines where the wing dividers gave me. Use a better tool if you can. I've been doing this so long, to me it just it's something that I just do. Don't forget your maker stamp. Be proud of your work. Everything is prepped for this piece for final assembly. So I took my sheath face and I went ahead and established all of the stitching holes, and I used a 5mm pricking iron from Maker's Leather Supply. I think a 5mm looks nice. You can use 6 stitches per inch as well, but because of the 1/2 inch welt, it makes it really, really nice. Because you have an option of doing 2 stitch lines, and in this particular case a 5mm outer edge and a 4mm inner edge. That looks nice. For the video, I'm going to do a single edge at 5mm. So that's marked out. I'm going to take my piece here for the welt, and I'm going to measure this wing divider to 1/2 inch. I'm going to take my welt piece, and I'm just going to go ahead and give myself my glue line. Everything else is excess that'll be trimmed later. So mark where you're going to glue with that. I also take the inside of the face and I give myself my glue line. And of course we're going to put the shelf with a magnet on there, and that'll make it even better. All right, so let's go ahead and put these two together, and we're getting close to final fabrication. I forgot to mention, so before the gluing stage, your sheath face here is prepped for your carving, your geometric basket weave stamps, your dragon scale, you know, whatever it is that you want to decorate all of this blank canvas with, do that first. So now I have glued to the lines, nice and neat, an even coat, not glopped glue. I happen to use Top Fit, Barge, Masters, and even that glue, I can't even think of the name right now, that you can buy at the Home Depot type stores. All of those contact cements work very well, and use what you like. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put the welt together on the sheath. I have my lines here to indicate where I need to glue to. And again, I clip my corners here. It's not necessary. It's just something that I do. So I will butt that up on all of the lines, flush on top, and then I just sort of walk it around, make sure that I'm on the lines, and of course all this excess here will be trimmed. Okay. Anytime we use a contact cement, it's not a bad habit to actually contact it. This is a convex head hammer. Will not leave hammer marks. And we'll go ahead and let that glue cure a little bit, and prep it for the next step. So now what I'm going to talk about are these shelves or magnet back pieces. Okay, and again, the magnet is an option for you. I use 3/4 of an inch. I find that that works perfectly. So let me set up for that, and I'll dedicate an entire clip for these particular pieces. Now I'm going to show you two different methods. George Canfield and I discussed this morning. This is still kind of R&D, but I think both of these methods are viable. So George was talking about making the magnet kind of an inlay. So what he came up with was taking your shelf piece, cutting a 7/8 inch hole, and then taking your 3/4 inch magnet and gluing it to the back of a piece of nice 1 ounce leather. So in this particular case, I'm using this beautiful red, and what this step entails is the magnet will be sandwiched with somewhat of an inlay look. So you glue the magnet to the back of the leather piece, and then you will, just like if you're doing an inlay, you will glue that to the back piece. And I did one here. This isn't a magnet. I don't have enough magnets for show and tell. So the concept is an inlay. And I went ahead and sewed it. You don't need to sew it. I don't know why I did. I just sewed it to show it's kind of an inlay. And then the back piece here, I went ahead and skived to feather too, so that there's no bulk. And the magnet is pressed into that to give it that inlay look. All right. So I will say, be careful pressing that or hammering it. Those rare earth magnets will break on you. So that's the inlay technique, so to speak. You can use an exotic leather piece. You can do all kinds of stuff, all different colors, etc. But anyway, that is the concept for this particular style of attachment. So now I'm going to show you what I sort of came up with, and it's, again, if you have a better way, please share it with us. This is your build. So you take the pattern for the cover plate and take your magnet, and of course you're going to feather edge the piece here as well. Very nice to feather. Use the techniques that I showed you or whatever you come up with. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to take the magnet and I'm going to push it in there. Get it from the top. All right, so that magnet is in there temporarily. Now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my pattern piece, I'm going to cut out some of that leather, and now what I'm going to do is I'm going to glue this edge, the top edge, and down around here with this 1 ounce leather. So let me glue that off camera, and then I will show you. So now this alternative method is another option or choice for you. Again, if you come up with a better plan, please let us know. And anyway, so the magnet is in there. I've glued the flesh side about 1/4 of an inch, somewhere in that area, and then I glued the front face. This eventually will all be glued together, so it doesn't really matter. So now I've glued both my 1 ounce piece, and I will take it and I will center it on there. Press that down. Now I did glue the top of the shelf as well. And now what I'm going to do is just fold this really tight over that. And now you have a covered piece. Now this contact cement is so strong, I am not worried about this piece eventually having any issues. Use whatever works for you, and I'm going to go ahead and take it to the next step. We're really into the final assembly stages, and let's do that. Press on. We have all our pieces prepped and ready for assembly. We have our back strap completed. Everything's done. We have our welt in place. Everything's done. I went ahead and pre-drilled the holes through the front face and the welt to sort of act like pilot holes. Remember, this is not production friendly. This is for you to make for yourself. If you've got 10 of these to make, this is not necessarily production friendly. So let's go ahead, and even though we're going to have the shelf with the magnet in there, let's go ahead, for tradition's sake, add the slots for the strap that we're going to employ here. And so the way to do that is, you can do it either way. I kind of like to do it this way, where the pattern is in position and everything is straight. I'll use a pencil just to give me some guidance as to where to put these punches. All right, so now I'm going to take my 3/4 inch slot tool, and I'm going to put it over that pencil mark. Make sure I'm on. Punch that out. Line that up over the other one. Okay, so now we have those. Now let's go ahead and take our safety strap, and it's going to be for right hand sheath, so we want the rounded end on this side. Go ahead and put it in there. And there's going to be some trimming involved here and shaping. So we're going to put that in there. And now you have a choice. If you want a really, really nice, you can take a stitch pattern. You can do a circle in here for stitching. You can do basically a line of stitching through here, which I will go ahead and do. So I'm going to have enough here to go around the handle, and I'll have enough there. I'm going to go probably need to trim a little bit, but before we do anything else, let's go ahead and just take this 5mm, put it dead center, and let's sew that, because as this has a tendency to wear, that'll get a little bit sloppy. Even though we're tight right now, that'll get sloppy. So let's go ahead and stitch that up. I think it looks better. You can put a rivet through there, but I'm not a big fan of rivets. So I'm going to sew that real quick, and we'll be right back. We're going to fold this into itself, flesh side to flesh side. So I moistened the center fold area here a little bit, and I'm going to butt this all up. I'm going to make sure everything is flush and symmetrical. I'm going to take a pencil line, and I'm going to put it there. And right here at the corner, you see I've already got a pencil line, and also here at the top corner, all the way across to this corner, I've got a pencil line. These are my glue areas. So now I'm going to go ahead and glue this up, and I'll be back to put them together. Glue's just about set up. If you'll notice, the 5mm pricking iron works perfectly for this 3/4 inch strap. You have a stitch above and below. They're double tacked right in there, and that's not going anywhere. So now we're going to take our fold, and we're going to glue this together right where our glue line indicators are. And the edges are pretty flush, so we're good there. I'm going to press down the back a little bit while the inside has been moistened. We're going to take our hammer, and we're going to apply our contact cement. All right, so now we are at the stage where we're going to incorporate our shelf, our magnet piece. And you'll see how this this works in the sheath. Make sure you have no glue there. So the first thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to put the face of the sheath on the back strap like this. Make sure everything's flush. Then I'm going to take a little pencil mark and I'm going to give myself a line of demarcation. That is where this piece here is going to be glued on. So everything still feels flush. And if it's off just a hair for whatever reason, just take it to your sander and you know, sand 1/64 of an inch off if you need to. So what we're going to do now is we're going to place this. We're going to place this onto the back strap that's glued, and we're going to line up those pencil marks and make sure everything is copacetic. Take another pencil mark, and you can see there's a huge process involved with this. This is not necessarily a kit. This definitely requires a lot of building, so to speak. So now, I went ahead and scratched the surface. Anytime you bond two pieces of leather together, especially if it's a grain side piece, you definitely want to apply some glue. So I went ahead and filled up this whole area where this magnet shelf is going to lay, and also you'll see in this particular version, the magnet is also going to be glued, and it's going to be glued to the back. So it's not going anywhere to the back, and it's not going anywhere to the front. So let's go ahead and apply the shelf. And remember that we established where we need to put that line by placing the face on there. So now I'm just going to take that and I'm going to squeeze the sides so that I know that they're flush. And then the tapered, skived magnet piece goes right into place, and there's no bump. There's kind of like a transition here. And I will go ahead and, again, be careful with that magnet. You don't want to hit that magnet because it will crack on you. And then you're stuck. So I'm going to go ahead and take my salon board and just make sure it's relatively flush. Feels good. Everything is working according to the pattern. All right. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my wing dividers at the 1/2 inch mark, and I'm just going to give myself a little line here for the welt glue up. So on each side of the line here, if you can see it, make it a little bit more prominent. This is where the welt's gonna go. And so you can see that the shelf leather that covers the magnet is gonna be underneath the welt. Now remember, you have the option of doing the inlay magnet as well. So that is your choice as far as however you want to do it. And like we said, this is still semi R&D. If you come up with a better plan, please share that with us. All right, so now we have the welt. I'm going to go ahead and glue the welt. I'm going to glue from right here all on this 1/2 inch line, and then we're going to place the sheath onto there, and you see how that shelf is going to work. And the concept of that is See, that magnet grabs that knife. And everything's symmetrical, everything looks good. We're gonna have a good strap length, and that magnet really does hold it in there good. So that's what the shelf does. That piece of leather that covers that looks pretty nice. And again, take your time, make all these steps as good as you can. So we'll go ahead and scratch this up. Probably scratch that up a little bit. Okay, time to glue. Press together when I come back. So before we do the final glue up, we're gonna sew down the shelf here to the back. And you're gonna go in between the glue lines. And probably right in this area here. And you're gonna take your stitching irons, 5mm, and place it on that line. And you're gonna punch it through, and then on this side here, again, you don't wanna go into the welt stitches. So our stitches are right to there. I'm gonna go ahead and stitch this up real quick. We're gonna apply the front face. I'm gonna show you the process that I use to use the drill press, and then we are just about complete. The shelf is now sewn in, and it's 0.85 thread for the safety strap, and for that 1.0 is what I'll use for the main seam. So now that we have that in there, and we're gonna go ahead and place our sheath face onto the final, for the final assembly step. All right, so I'm gonna line that up, make sure that we're all flush here. Make sure we're flush at the bottom. Take our contact. And we are pretty close to flush. There's just gonna be a little bit of cleanup needed after we sew this. Okay, so I'm gonna take a little brush here just because I'm OCD and get rid of any dust in there. The shelf is in place. On the next clip, I will show you how I use my drill press to drill through this piece and sew it. We're gonna do the edges, and then we are done with this project. And I'm gonna show you a couple of things on the other two. All the fabrication steps are the same on the other two sheaths. And again, options galore. Let's go ahead and drill press these holes. This is a viable method of sewing, believe it or not. So what I use is a Dremel drill press station. I find this to be a little bit easier to use than a table-mounted industrial drill press. I use a 1/16 inch bit. They happen to be the Bauer titanium. For some reason, those seem to be the best drill that I've used so far. Okay, a couple of things. The sheath has to be completely dry. The glue has to be pretty well cured. And a couple of features here that I like about this is I can set up my wood base to have the sheath about 1/2 inch from the end of the drill press. The second thing is speed. You have to find the adjustment on your drill press to where the drill bit bites through the sheath without bogging down. If you push your drill bit in there and it bogs down, it's too slow. If it's too fast, you might have a tendency to burn. So find that sweet spot on the drill press speed. All right, so I have a little light here that I mounted on the side of my drill press, and I've already done half. So you can see that it does produce a really nice stitch space and line. Of course, use your class 4 if you machine sew. Even your 26 could probably do this. Your Boss hand crank, whatever it is that you use, there's no rules in this game. So let me just demonstrate a few holes for you. The object is keep this flat and keep it flat on the table and punch through. Here we go. Anyway, you can get actually pretty quick with this, and it does have a nice stitch. So I'm going to go ahead and finish this off camera, and then I will prep that for sewing. The only thing we have left to do is sew it, sand the edges, edge the top piece, and we are ready to do the final fitting for the safety strap, and we are done. I began to sew my sheath. I use a 1 mil waxed braided thread like Ritza or Maine Thread Company. I use John James or C.S. Osborne blunt tip egg eye harness needles, and I sew away from myself. Like I said, I don't do a groove, I don't do a cast stitch. This is how I learned 40 years ago, and watch Nigel. He'll teach you how to hand sew. But anyway, this is what I do. And the key is that this thread fills the hole, and that your needles, I also have a sewing pair of pliers that helps. So these aren't big holes. These get filled up very nicely, and then pull it snug. That first needle goes through perfectly, and then the second needle is a little bit tough, and that's kind of what you want. You want that hole filled up, and then I just pull each stitch snug into the leather. Because it is slightly cased, it will have a tendency to nestle into the beautiful veg tan leather. So anyway, I'll do just a couple of more and finish up, and then show you the final steps to make this product beautiful. Sheath is finished sewing, and it's all set now to have the stitches tap flat. So using a convex polished head hammer, just take this on a hard surface like glass or marble, and if you watch, you can see those stitches filling in the gaps. Almost watch it happen. Okay, now we're going to take that to the flap sander, probably 80 grit, just to true everything up, but it's actually pretty close. The pattern is spot on, and I'm pleased with that. Just a little bit of touch up, and let's go do that. Just wanted to make sure that everything fit. The edge of the guard is flush with the top. The knife is completely in. You can see the slight swell of compression that we're achieving, and everything is working correctly. Let's go ahead and take it to the 80 grit flap sander, and I'm going to work my way up through 240. But I will do that off camera. It's looking good. All right, I'm going to take it up to 240 and then eventually hand sand to 600, but I won't do that on camera. Just do the edge to the extreme that you like. Now that we've sanded our edges, we've tapped our stitches flat, I like to take a fairly large edger. I like a nice rounded edge. That is, again, completely up to you. And I'm going to take the last of the ink line is now removed. Go ahead and do the back. And she is ready for burnish. Anyway, now let's go ahead and set the spacing on the strap, and then the rest is up to you. All right, I'm not sure if I showed you on the other clip, but anytime I have a plain sheath, I always border the stitch line with a wing divider and then that plastic bone folder to burnish in the edges. Anyway, it's a nice little touch. Now let's go ahead and establish the safety strap. I like a nice tight safety strap. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to stretch that as tight as I can over the top, and you'll see I have a little bit of excess. So you can put this wherever you want in comparison, but I like a little bit of an over, and I'm going to cut that off right there. I like a little bit folded over. So I'm going to pull the knife out, and I have my line set up there, and because I'm OCD, I will use my little square, machinist square here to cut it off, and my homemade utility knife, high carbon steel blade. So I cut that off, and now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to take a little bit of the bump off of that. And you can see now why it's easy to do it after the fact. But anyway, I'm going to go ahead and take this little bump off here, not to feather, just kind of taking the bulk away from that. And I will trim that little excess, clip the corners ever so slightly. So now we have a little bit of the bulk removed. And now we are going to take our knife and put it back in there. And that is good. So pull that nice and tight. Push that strap over. And then I'm going to eyeball basically the center of the knife handle. Just going to put a little dot there. Okay? So now the excess here is completely up to you. So, and there's probably a better way to do this, but this is the way I do it. So now I'm going to take that, and you can measure to make sure it's centered. And I'm going to use a 24 line cap and socket. So here's a little tip I can share with you. So the standard 24 line punch hole, I think, is 1/8 of an inch. If you punch a small hole, and this is for anything, and it's too small for that, don't try to recut that with another larger punch. You'll never get it right. Just take an awl that has a good tapered shaft and then swell that hole a little bit, and then force that in there. I could have swelled it a little bit more, but it still went in there, and it's centered, and now that's the little tip. I'm going to go ahead and pull it out since all I was doing was showing you that tip. And I'm going to put the knife in there. I'm going to run this part over nice and tight. Hold that down there. Bring that over the top. Make sure everything's tight. And then I'm just going to draw my little hole on that side. And now I know where to punch my cap and socket and my post and stud. So I will do that. put the post here on the bottom. Stretch that a little bit more. Okay, that's in. And now let's put our cap in. Okay, now I cheat. These things are really worth their weight in gold because they will set your snaps really nicely each and every time. And if you do set a lot of 24 line, 20 line snap caps, that they're worth it. Okay, just put it in there. Give it a little bit of a press. I gotta change these out anyway. I used to have two, and then I thought, why do I have two? Now I wish I had two again. And then we're gonna do the post. Okay. And you may say, George, you made it too tight. Actually, I didn't. Because that, with time, is going to loosen up. So, of course, you can trim that tail to any size that you like. I may trim it just, maybe a half an inch shorter. But anyway, there she blows. Hope you like it. Hope you build one yourself. And in my final talk on this video, I'll share a few things with you. Let me take 30 seconds and talk about the other two patterns in this pattern pack. They are the Classic and they are the Dangler. We finished the High Ride, and anyway, so I wanted to share really quickly. So on the patterns for the Classic and the Dangler, the build is identical. The only thing added for the Dangler is this is cut on the pattern to match the D-ring that we're using in the Dangler, and it's 1.25 inches. And you'll find that that pattern is just a little bit larger than 1.25 inches. And I take into consideration you edging and burnishing. And when this is ready to be put in for the Dangler, this has already been skived. You're going to sort of fold that up like that, run it through that, and then bring it up into here. Now, the stitch indicators on the pattern are sort of guidelines. Depending on the thickness of your D, remember it's 1.25 inches, and you see how that fills that D up full. You want to stitch that together, because the concept of the Dangler is that this part moves, the D-ring doesn't move inside of that. Okay, so that's on the Dangler. And on the Classic, the strap on the bottom and the top is 100% optional. You can put one in the middle. You can put all three of them on there. It doesn't matter to us. Anyway, have fun with this. Order yourself a set of these patterns from edcleather.com. Tell them George sent you. If you want to tip the channel, then purchase a set of these, and that will help both EDC and Victor George out a lot. So thank you very much for that. I'm going to do a final little spiel, and we'll call it good. So we are all done. We have talked our way through this particular build. I really hope that you find these fun yet challenging. Go to edcleather.com, order yourself a set today. And I think we, the other George and I talked that we might hold a competition in the near future. So order a pattern pack, build any one you want into any degree of beautification that you'd like to achieve. And we may have a competition, and I may throw in a brand new Kabar knife for the winner. So let's have a little fun with this. Stay tuned for both EDC and Victor George Leather Goods to discuss that a little bit more. And I think that would be a fun competition. So Thanks again. Appreciate you wading through this whole video, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a great day.